Hey, what's up? It's Sifu Cuddle, and in this video, we're going to do a fun little review on a budget sword. This is the Mizuchi Katana from DragonSports.EU. It lists for about 116 on their website, that is before shipping, but this definitely puts it into the budget category. Now, based on that price point, I am not expecting perfection, but I do feel that this one can pack a punch because it is considered battle ready. So we are going to be doing some cutting tests with it, see how it feels in motion, and then also the overall buying experience. So let's take a closer look. First off, ordering this sword was extremely easy. Like I said, I got it from DragonSports.EU, and the site is incredibly simple to navigate. Everything is straightforward, it's right in front of you. You don't have to jump through hoops. It costed as much as it was listed. There were no extra or hidden fees, and then the rest was up to shipping, which is a little bit of a different story. I want to say it took about 2 weeks because the sword was sent from France, bypassed Geneva, and entered the country all the way on the other side near Germany before it backtracked to Geneva. And during that process, even though the sword box was wrapped up very well on the shipping end, on DragonSport's end, it did get bumped up and scuffed in shipping, and the Swiss Post took responsibility for that, although it didn't really damage anything on the inside besides a scuff and a little bit of a corner bent in on the box. It arrived fairly decent and in good condition. However, I will say that when opening the box, I was very disappointed to find the blade out of the scabbard and the two wrapped and taped together. I have never seen anything shipped like this in my life, so please let me know if you have, because to me, this could lead to a potentially long list of problems. Anyway, I was happy to find both the blade and the scabbard intact without any chips, rust, bending, or loose fittings, so at least everything was going in the right direction. The blade itself is a 1045 carbon steel, which is actually pretty soft as it has the minimum carbon count for a usable sword. With that said, a good tempering and heat treatment will produce a good blade with 1045, but it also has the potential to bend, which is something we'll put to the test when we actually go to target cutting, as this sword is battle ready and we're going to go from the spectrum of soft targets into harder targets. The tip is a standard Chu Kisaki, and there is a nice bohea groove extending along the blade. There is an etched hamon line, which is a nice touch, wavy and smooth, uniform and symmetrical, if you prefer that. As for the tsuka, the ito is not very tight, and it started shifting from the get-go. You can already see the size variance in the diamonds near the kashira as compared to the tsuba. It also reveals a strip of faux ray skin under the wrapping. And after about a dozen hours, it started to push the kashira, so that is moving around at this point. However, this is the wear and tear that I was expecting for this price point of a sword. And if I really like this blade, I may just go ahead and get a custom wrapping and a new set of koshirai. Speaking of which, the tsuba, fuchi, and kashira have a floral theme, and it actually looks quite nice. However, only the blossoms on the tsuba are painted with silver and gold, which I actually would have preferred left darkened like the rest of the fittings. The Menuki are black dragons, which is actually how this sword gets its name. Mizuchi is a water dragon, so between the blue ito as well as the Menuki, we have a theme. Now, it was a little bit opposite from what I'm used to as far as the placement of the Menuki, because it actually puts them into my palms. The saya has a glossy dark graphite paint, and the sageo is the same color and material as the ito, which really brings everything together. I will say though, based off of what I saw on the website, I was actually expecting a dark blue saya rather than the graphite, but in all honesty, it looks really nice as is, so I'm not that worried. In moving the sword, it actually feels pretty good. It has some nice forward weight, which is helpful in cutting applications, and feels more or less tight and controlled in movement, though a little cumbersome. Cutting, however, revealed a lot about this sword, and I did put it up against a wide range of cutting targets, from very light, like a cardboard milk carton, to plastic water bottles, to the more traditional rolled tatami mats, and then finally the Lancelot target, which is soaked newspaper wrapped around a PPR pipe. Milk cartons were super easy, and water bottles weren't so bad either. The big difference between the two is making sure you have a keen enough edge to really bite into the water bottle. If you have a little bit more of a dull edge, it can be a little bit more difficult, but this sword did really well through both. Tatami was actually surprising to me, as I expected it to be really the big gap to jump over for this sword. But it didn't feel like there was much of a problem for blade edge alignment and maintaining that through the cut. It had good weight in it, and the edge was still keen even after cutting water bottles. So this worked out really well. The Lancelot targets were the real challenge. That was the real business. And it all comes down to that PPR core. The paper itself had a very similar thickness and feel to tatami, but when it came down to the PPR, really everything had to be on top of the right distance to hit that sweet spot and to have enough power to clear through it, which was surprisingly possible. The blade didn't chip, it didn't bend, it cleared through the forearm target, but it failed to clear through the thigh target, which is a very, very thick piece of PPR and paper. So again, very surprised. In the end, this sword is really not the sword that I had expected. In some ways, it met the mark, and in other ways, it actually greatly exceeded my expectations. This all comes down to the cutting. The sword maintained its blade edge alignment, it didn't bend, it didn't chip, and it cleared through the PPR piping of the forearm targets, which I really didn't expect it to do. Now, when it comes to the fit and finish of the sword, I'd say it underdelivers. Now, this can be remedied by buying a new set of wrapping and fittings, but if you're going to start investing in that, you may as well just go up to the next quality tier sword. That would start at about $180 to $200, and if you can save up a little bit extra for that, you will have a much better sword on your hands. However, if that doesn't work for you, this sword certainly will. Anyway, that's going to do it for this review. I would love to hear your thoughts and questions about this sword, so make sure to drop those down in the comments section down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.